Greetings, YouTubers. Looks like tonight we got us a Mercedes water pump we got to replace. This is a C320, manufacturer date 1 of 2004, and we are got a water pump that's making a pretty bad racket. And there's a good look at our water pump. Should be pretty easy to change out, but I wanted to show you just how bad this pulley was here. I can put this screwdriver in behind here and completely move this thing around. I don't know why or how this thing is not leaking, but look at that. It's making a heck of a noise. Let me start it up for you. Yeah, she's not sounding too good, that's for sure. So hopefully that's what we'll get done tonight. Shouldn't be too bad of a job. And here is a look at the new water pump, and there's a lot of bolts in this thing. So you're going to have to be careful, make sure you get the right bolts back in and all that. And there's the back of it, pretty long. Now this one does not have the oil pump hose that goes right here. Some of these will have a nipple right about here, and you see this one does not. So you got to verify that you get the right water pump for that. And also we got 2 gaskets. And we've got a O-ring in there that we've got to put on. I think I picked this up on eBay off of a dealer for about $60 free shipping. But nevertheless, first thing we're going to do here is to put a jack on this side up under the driver's side door and lift it up about 6 inches because we're going to get up in the front here. There's a little plastic shield. We're going to take that off. That'll let us get into the pick cut drain there. Drain some of this antifreeze out, and so we don't have such a mess. So these are little 8mm bolts or screws, if you will, and we're taking out. We took the 2 off in the back, and we got 2 on the front. And if you live in the Northeast, watch out for the rocks and stuff and snow, ice and snow that might fall out of there if you're working in the wintertime. If you just pulled it in the garage and it's thawing out. And we got one more on this side. Now we can get this thing out of here. And we might have one more in the back, I'm not sure. Actually, there's going to be 6. Okay, so there is one more. It's actually right here. I think you can see it. Man, I'll tell you what. These are lifesaver tools. This is the old Auto Jar. I'm still rocking it. $49 ratchet. It's been a lifesaver. So let's get this out of here. And before we drag that out, I did go ahead and take off a couple pieces on the engine. This is just plastic. This is kind of a air duct hose that's kind of sitting on top. And you got this piece here. Move this out of the way. It gives you a little better access into that water pump. And here comes this big old splash guard. And there's one of the bolts. And yeah, this one's kind of busted up. It's fairly intact, so I'm surprised that it's made the journey this long. So we'll put this out of the way. Alright, so I got the shield off, and if you want to have a really good night, well, at least start out having a decent night, get you a piece of hose like I've got here and put on the back of that pet cut drain down into the pail. It just makes it so much nicer, and I think that's a pretty big hose. That's probably a 5/8 hose, so we'll loosen this up. And there goes our fluid leaking out. I don't want to take it all the way out. And there we go. We'll let that drain out. And while that's doing that, just come up here and release this, or open this up a little bit, and let the pressure kind of relieve itself. That'll help it drain out just a little bit faster. Alright, so while that's draining, one thing you can do is get you a box and get your brand new water pump, and go ahead and draw all the little bolt holes that you need to put back in, take out, and all that. And also, go ahead and write down your belt diagram here, because there are several different size lengths bolts here. We're going to have a E10, E14, and I believe an E16 Torx socket. So this is something that you're going to have. And these are females. I got these at Harbor Freight for about $14. And when you take that old water pump off and all that, you know, you can just take these bolts out one at a time, put in here, and that way you'll have a good, nice guide, and you will not get any of these bolts messed up. This may take 5 minutes, but trust me, You will thank me later, and I do this a lot of times with pumps, water pumps that have a lot of bolts in them, because it's very easy to get them messed up if you're not paying attention. Alright, so let's go ahead and get a couple things out of the way. Now some of these things you don't have to do like this, but I'm going to go ahead and take this reservoir hose off because it's connected to the upper radiator hose. I'm just going to kind of pull this out of the way, because the less you have in your way, the less chance you have of breaking something, and also the less chance you have becoming frustrated. So this makes it a little bit easier to get this stuff out of the way. Alright, so we're moving right along, and it took me 5 minutes, or maybe 10, to get this one hose off. Boy, that thing was in there. So we'll pull all this back over here out of the way for now. That way we have a lot more room in here to get in here and do things. So that makes it really nice. Alright, so what we're going to do for now, we're going to unhook a couple of these sensors here, because if we don't, we're going to end up breaking these. And I've seen guys break these. This one here is just a little tiny temperature sensor, and you got to be very careful with these. These are expensive and hard to get. We're going to put that out of the way, off to the side. Now this one piece right here, if you look down here on the bottom, someone's either worked on this before, but this screw is ready to come out of this thing, and what the heck is that doing there? I don't think that's supposed to be there, and we only got one other piece here holding it on there, and there's not even a screw in that. So I really don't know what's going on here. I don't think that's supposed to be like that. And I think this should slide out, hopefully. If it does, we can just bungee or zip tie it out of the way for now. Let's see. Alright, so there's that. It looks like there's a secondary piece that actually came off with it, so maybe some of it's missing. So let's see if we can just kind of pull this out of the way. We might have one more. Yeah, we've got one more little connector right here. I think you can see that. Let's get this out of the way. Alright, I think you can see this. I just wanted just one connector here off. Boy, I tell you what an over-engineered car. Alright, now we've got this off. I should be able to pull this up out of the way. Yes, which I can. And we can leave these kind of pushed out of the way. Now there's a vacuum line back there that goes, apparently, on the back of this right here. So don't forget to put that back on, or you'll have a check engine light. Okay, now at this point, it's a good idea to go ahead and break these loose since the belt's still in here. It helps you a little bit. I'm going to pull this out of the way just so you can see, because I think it's in my camera shot. And take a 10 millimeter and go ahead and break these loose a little bit. Alright, there's that last one. Alright, so those are all loose now. Let's go ahead and get this belt off. Now we've got a pulley right here, our Serpentine tensioner. Get you an 18 deep well, and on the very bottom there's a nut, and I'm not going to be able to show you, but it's right about there. Turn it counterclockwise. When you do, you can see how the tension gets released off that belt. Go ahead and slide that off a little bit there. Take that out. Now, there is a place that you can stick an Allen wrench in here that'll hold this, so I'm going to find me an Allen wrench, little guy, and stick in there, because if you release that all the way, well, let's see. Well, I think we'll be okay for now. We'll just leave it like that. But some of these cars, you have to put that in there, because if you don't, I believe the belt will hit the crank. But this one seems to be okay, so we'll go ahead and take that belt off. All right, so off it comes, and this is why we got the diagram, because this belt is long. That's what she said. Huh? All right, let's get that out of the way. One more here, and our pulley's okay. So yeah, we're okay. Wow, look right there. That bolt's partially out. Look at that. I can turn with my fingers. Yeah. Okay. Good thing we're putting a water pump on this. All right, let's go ahead and get these out of the way. As I got a little bush in the background playing Machine Head. Appropriate. Get this one off here. And one more here. Alright, so that's off. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. Alright, so here's where we are. At this point, it gets a little sketchy. There's one little sensor right here above the pulley on the top of this water pump. This water pump has a little place cut out where it goes around that. Now, I've read two things. I read somewhere where if you just pop this clip off, this will allow you to pull this sensor out. Then I read something else where it says you have to take all the bolts off and slide this out from underneath because it's got a little groove cut in it. So we're just going to pop this clip off. I can't believe they would put this in here and make you pull the water pump off just because you want to get this out. But, you know, it's Mercedes and stranger things have happened. So I've got the clip out. Let's see if I can get the rest of the way out. Alright, so I got it out. Boy, you got to be really careful. I almost dropped it there. But so that's out. But I'm still not convinced that's going to come out. Let me get a little pair of pliers and see if we can just gently turn that. You know, it doesn't surprise me. If that doesn't come out, I'll probably go ahead and pull the water pump off and slide it down slightly and get it out of there. Boy, what a nightmare these some of these cars are to work on nowadays. Alright guys, I don't see that happening because that is in there and I am not going to take a chance in breaking this little tiny sensor. It's trying to turn, but I'm not going to take a chance. So we're just going to take the water pump off, take all the bolts off first and drop it down maybe 1/4 of an inch and out of there. So man, you know, anyway, let's go ahead and get these bolts out of the water pump. You know, so let's go ahead and get this popped off here. And we got to take a T50, I believe, for that Torx bit. Alright, so this bolt is very, very long, and this is a T50. Let me go loose here. Alright, so, you know, you take this Mercedes to a dealer and do this job, I guarantee it's close to $800 at least. And I'm doing it for the parts. Alright, so there's this. This bolt is very, 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 very long. So here's what we're going to do next. There's our 4th pulley bolts. And here is the bolt we just took out. Stick this sucker right there. We'll never lose it. What we're going to do is take off our 2 hoses. There's one hose right here. Has this little plastic clip. This doesn't clip that. It actually bolts to the bottom of the alternator. But when you take this off here, this clamp off of this hose, it'll allow you to slide this out of the way some more. So if that hose is actually frozen on there, you get you a big long screwdriver and just kind of angle it around here. And because sometimes you can't get a screwdriver in there, so you can see that's partially out. So that's good there, and now we've got that big hose below it. Actually, you know what? We're going to take this and just move it completely out of the way. Fish it back around there. That will be much better. And now we've got one more right here, and I don't think you can see it. The little clamp right there. I think we can get that off fairly easy. Alright, I think you might be able to see this. That came off fairly easy, and there's probably going to be a little antifreeze in this hose, but actually there's not. So I got it drained out pretty good. So we'll kind of push this down out of the way too. And really the hardest part's done. All we got to do now is start taking out all these bolts. Alright, so we'll go ahead and use our E socket here. This is a 14 mil. We're going to take this bolt completely out on the alternator. And we're going to stick this over there in the box where the holes are so we won't lose anything. Alright kids, I think we got all the bolts out except for this one here. We're going to loosen it up a little bit and tap on this, see if we can free it loose, because remember we got that sensor up here. We're going to try to not damage it. But you know, hopefully the video is okay, because I'm shooting on this really old camera. I shoot all my videos on old cameras I buy on eBay for like 40 bucks. And this one here is like $58. I've had it for like 10 years. Not sure how the quality is, but you guys can be the judge of that. So let's go ahead and get this bolt out. I believe that one's going to be an E12. Yep, that's an E12. I don't need the extension no more. Some of those bolts down there, you had to have an extension to get in there. They're in there, and so easy to get one hidden that you didn't see. Alright, so we're just going to kind of leave that in there. And now, we got to go ahead and try to tap on it or move it a little bit, because we don't want to break that sensor right about there. So let's see what we can get done. Oh, and by the way, there's the mess of bolts we got, but at least we know what bolt goes where. The red is where there was actually no bolts. They were just holes in the water pump, so worked out good. All right, so all we can do is try here and look how bad that is. Wow. I don't think they're going much farther than that thing. Shocked that it wasn't leaking. Alright. So just pry on just a little bit. Now it's moving. Make sure we got the bolts out. Just kind of take our time out of here, because this thing's pretty big. It's a big housing. Alright. Double check all the bolts all the way around. I don't see anything else here. It's probably just frozen on there, so we'll just have to pry on it a little bit more. Well, at this point, we might as well just take this out at this point. Alright, stick this in the box over there. Yes sirree, Buster boy. There's one more right here. See, it's getting late. I'm a little tired, and I almost missed it. And I went back to my box and looked, and I saw a hole missing. And there it is. Sneaky little devil. Alright, now let's try gently pry this off without, well, actually it's falling off on its own. Well, there it is. Wow, so happy about that. I was so worried about that sensor. And there's the water pump. Look how pretty bad. Alright, wow, we got it! Yay! Alright. Alright guys, well, there's not a whole lot to look at. Looks like it was leaking out the weep hole right here. And for the most part, that was about it, but it's ready to fall apart. Alright, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. Remember this clip? Well, I popped it back on and I got it sideways, so this is a freaking nightmare. So I can't get it out without breaking it. So there's two bolts here in this thermostat housing. I'm just going to pop this off, put that clip back on the way it should be, then put this on, because part of it right there on the corner, that thermostat housing, if I zoom in, see right there? It's kind of catching on the side of that, so I'm just going to take this off here and slide it in there the right way. I mean, what else do I have to do, right? That was a joke, of course. So, I just cannot get that little clip back in there. So let's take our little hammer here and tap a little bit. Make sure there's nothing else in there. That's all I see. It's the only ones I see on there. Alright, is it off? I think so. Alright. Probably an O-ring on there. I want to try to save. Yep. Yep. Looks like we saved the O-ring. And now, that stupid clip. God. I'm hoping you guys can still see. Get my hand out of the way now. You can see how it kind of goes in there. It kind of goes up over this little piece right here and goes straight down. And if I'm a light, I don't think you're still going to be able to see what I'm doing here, but I may have to use both hands. Alright, so I got it back on there. I took my needle nose and kind of helped it on there. And that's how it sits. And when the water pump goes on there, part of that housing goes over top of this and holds that sensor in. I mean, was that really necessary? But what am I? I'm not an engineer. So that's on. And now we can put the thermostat housing back on, clean up this water pump a little bit, and start putting everything back together. And clean up this housing a little bit and start putting this water pump back on. So it wasn't too bad of a job, as long as you drink a lot of coffee and have some patience. Alright, you know, everything looks pretty good after just kind of wiping things off. The nice thing here is I don't have to use that O-ring. I just have a regular gasket. And this is a 3.2 4Matic V6. I almost forgot to tell you what size engine this was. But some of them have the optional O-ring and some don't. So luckily I don't have to worry about the O-ring. So it's pretty clean. We're just going to go ahead and put it back together and start wrapping this video up. Alright guys, before we put this water pump on, I just wanted to show you, look at the different size bolts there. So this is why you really got to be careful. And I believe I counted 16 altogether. So yeah, kind of interesting to see the different sizes, the lengths and everything. So just beware of that and be careful. Alright, so we got our water pump here. We're going to get our gasket kind of set up here. And we're going to start a couple of bolts by fingers, you know, and kind of make sure the gasket goes on straight. I'm not going to show you too much video here because there's really no content here. I'll be lucky to get 200 views out of this video probably. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start these in here. Take my time putting these bolts in. We'll come back here every little bit and show you how the progress is going and all that. Alright, so there's a nice look at it. We got all the bolts torqued down and all that. So it wasn't too bad. The only thing that kind of scared me was over here where this bolt goes in the alternator. You got a sleeve on the inside of this thing. It wasn't pushed all the way back, and as I was tightening it down, this arm started bending here and I thought I was going to break this, but I put a little screwdriver behind here to kind of stop it, and it forced that in there, and now that is tight. So everything went on fairly well. And of course, the biggest nightmare, that clip right there, it's still on there, and you can barely see where that housing comes up behind there. It kind of holds that clip in place and holds that sensor in there. What a joke, man. I hope you don't have to mess with that. If you do, you might want to have one on standby. You might have to order one just in case you'd accidentally break that. Alright guys, so everything's going pretty well. I'm getting ready to put this little bracket back on here you saw earlier, but remember that clip I was fighting with? Well, when I bolted the housing back on with the thermostat here, you see how part of this comes over this way and the water pump kind of comes up there? Both sides of that holds that bracket in, so now I understand how that works. So that's why that little clip is in there, or bracket, whatever you want to call it, little tiny guy. That's how it stays in there, that side and that side right down there. You can kind of see the top of it sticking up. Holds it in there for that little sensor. If you ever want to take that sensor out, I don't know if you have to take this off and the water pump to get it out or what, but you know, that's something you need to research if you ever break that. But that is back on. I just wanted to show you that there real quick. Alright, now as for this, we just stuck some Christmas trees in there. That'll hold us better than OEM. And they went in there really nicely, so you had to really push on those. That ain't going nowhere, so that is fixed there. Alright, so we got her on. Alright, so we'll kind of clean up here a little bit. We'll put some antifreeze in and we'll start her up and see how she sounds as we wrap this video up. Alright guys, she's fixed. No leaks. Sounds pretty good, except for that pulley there. That pulley's making just a little bit of noise, but man, it sounds a lot better than it did before. We don't have any leaks underneath, so we can call this job done. Alright guys, everything's done. It's full of antifreeze. We got heat inside, it idles great, and all that. So I guess this is about the end of the video. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a big old thumbs down. And until my next video guys, I will see you later.